Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tables, Ladders, and Podcasts, the only podcast full of Rudy Tooty Booty. This is episode 137. I am your host, as always, Poit, and joining me on the panel to discuss the week in WWE, we have Wehrman.
I'll have you know that my booty is only slightly Rudy or Tooty.
And Jabba.
I was going to say, since there are three of us, which one is the Rooty, which is the Tooty, and which is the Booty? Any wild speculation on that front?
I don't know. Are any of us fresh and or fruity?
There's a joke to be made there, but let's just skip right ahead.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. Wehrman, do you have any news to lay upon us?
I have some news. Let's just start with the big one. Dave Meltzer and several other news sources are reporting that following Wrestle Kingdom 10 on this past Monday, 4 major stars from New Japan have given the company their notice and are in talks with WWE if they haven't signed already. The 4 in question are former IWGP Tag Team Champions Machine Gun Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, formerly Luke Gallows of the Straight Edge Society, current IWGP Intercontinental Champion and probably the biggest star in Japan at the moment, Shinsuke Nakamura, and arguably the biggest one that got away for WWE since Sting, AJ Styles. While WWE has yet to confirm anything, several wrestlers, including Finn Balor, Samoa Joe, and Sasha Banks, have tweeted messages and pictures exclaiming their excitement for the move. Gallows and Anderson's exact destination is currently unknown, but it's being suggested that Styles is going to skip NXT completely and go straight into working on the main roster, possibly as early as the Royal Rumble. Nakamura will likely debut later this year, as he still has obligations with New Japan as their Intercontinental Champion. This is huge. I mean, holy crap.
Did you see the article on WWE.com?
I did, where they started teasing it, but like I said, they haven't confirmed it, but they're definitely saying, huh? You think we got him? Did you think we got him? Huh?
So yeah, I mean, just the line saying the office of WWE COO and EVP of Talent Relations Triple H declined to comment on the rumors. Like, that's just basically confirmation, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I mean, it's WrestleMania season, and AJ Styles is coming to WWE. Holy shit. I mean, I know a lot of guys are hurt at the moment, but think of the potential matches we have now. Matches that I thought were never going to happen in WWE, but are now on the table.
Think of all the
Styles
guys
and
that
Kevin
hurt.
Owens. Styles and Dean Ambrose. Styles and Seth Rollins. If he's healthy, Styles and Daniel Bryan. Those are...
Would you like to risk Daniel Bryan going through a Styles clash, though?
No. But I wouldn't be surprised if they make him use the calf killer as his finisher instead of the Styles clash.
Could you see a way they wouldn't bring in those guys as a group? Or do you think they would definitely do that?
All 4 guys or the 3 Bullet Club guys?
Well,
I think it's going to be
the 3 that would be coming in first, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I have a feeling that the Bullet Club guys are going to stick together. Just as I was saying before the show went on, just purely fantasy booking, I feel like Triple H is going to bring in the former Bullet Club guys as like his new Shield because Seth Rollins got hurt and Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose aren't playing ball. So, I mean, the potential for Shield versus Bullet Club once Seth Rollins is back, that is insane.
Time will tell. Do we have any less exciting news nuggets?
I do. In addition to the 4 rumored signees, Observer Radio is reporting that New Japan star and Ring of Honor Tag Team Champion Rocky Romero may be coming as well as a trainer, which is neat. I've seen a couple of Rocky Romero's matches, and he's good, so I think he'll be a good get for them. And I think the big reason, apart from just going, holy shit, we have AJ Styles now, the Talent Raid also coincides with the latest expansion of the WWE Network, which is now available in Japan and Germany as of yesterday. So I think getting two of the biggest names in Japan and one of the biggest tag teams in Japan, that was definitely deliberate. That was definitely them trying to hone in on the Japanese market.
Well then, but what are they doing to secure that German market?
Don't know just yet. Are there any great German wrestlers you can think of off the top of your head?
No, but there was the German announce team that one time. So maybe they could come back. That was a big hit.
I'm sure they
could. Was that the group that had 4 announcers?
Yes.
I'm sure they can, like, I don't know, take Curtis Axel and dye him, like, give him, like, Aryan blonde hair or something.
Well, if you think about how much saliva is drained with each syllable in German, they need to kind of tag out the commentators every now and then so they can re-moisten themselves.
I don't ever want to hear the term re-moisten themselves ever again.
Well, you're on the wrong show then.
Probably.
Yeah.
Anyway, this past Sunday, former WCW World Champion Big Van Vader teased on his Twitter account that he may be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame this year.
Ooh.
Which would be really cool. I mean, they didn't do Vader justice when he came to WWE, but, I mean, if you watch his matches in WCW and in Japan, the guy was a monster. Like, Vader and Sting in, like, 92 is one of the best feuds in the history of WCW. Definitely check it out. Let's see. Connor from the Ascension is out with an injury. He apparently suffered a possible dislocated jaw at this week's Superstars tapings in a match against R-Truth and Goldust.
Oh dear. Well, it's only going to be downhill.
R-Truth and Goldust.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there anywhere further for the Ascension to fall right now? So getting injured is probably a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it could, get them away from their just constant burial time for a while.
Yeah, they'll at least get some kind of fresh start when he comes back.
All right, a couple of pieces of good news to round out the news this week. WWE's ratings were up this week, largely thanks to there being no competition from the NFL. On average, they drew 3.57 million viewers, making them the #1 show of the night for overall viewership. Although they were still behind Love and Hip Hop for the 18 to 34 demographic.
Oh dear.
I have a couple news items.
Oh.
Okay.
So WWE.com reported on Monday that former wrestler Mason Ryan has a new job as the chief archer for one of Cirque du Soleil's shows.
I didn't know he was an archer. That's cool.
Nor did I.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly hope he's better at that than he was at wrestling, because Mason Ryan was just...
terrible.
Yeah, I mean, on his best day, he was bargain basement Batista.
Now, if we were going to do a predict the news game, I think that would have completely thrown off all our scores.
Yeah, holy... And you showed us the picture of him. I know we can't really set it up to...
Java can show a picture.
No, I can't.
Oh, okay then.
Not
Well,
right now.
just Google search Mason Ryan Cirque du Soleil. It's interesting.
It is also his current Twitter profile picture.
Yes, you can see it there when you're on Twitter following Tables Ladders Podcast.
Yes, at Tables Ladders.
Yes.
Other news is that James Storm has apparently re-signed with TNA.
Ah.
Interesting.
And another bit of news from WWE.com, there was a poll, or is a poll, I think it's still open, asking which current title do you think needs a redesign? As of this morning, there were over 64,000 votes, and winning the poll is the Divas Championship with 50% of the vote.
Well, yeah, I mean, Even since day one, people have hated that thing.
Also of note is that second place is the Tag Team Championship with 20%, followed by the World Heavyweight Championship at 13%, U.S. title at 12%, and finally, apparently 5% of people don't like the Intercontinental Belt.
Well, those 5% of people are wrong.
I think the US title is a little bit on the ugly side.
Me too. It looks like a superhero emblem.
But in terms of picking one title to change, the Divas Championship is definitely the one to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's been needing to go for years. It's butt ugly. The title is insulting. Just everything about it sucks. All right. Do you have any more news bits?
That is all that I have.
Okay, I have one more, and it's a good bit of news. This past weekend, Shaul Guerrero, a.k.a. former WWE development talent Raquel Diaz, and the daughter of Eddie and Vicky Guerrero got married. The lucky man, current vaudevillain Aiden English. So yeah, Aiden English is now Eddie Guerrero's son-in-law, kind of.
Yeah, so you imagine a couple of decades' time there could be a wrestler popping up with a very strange kind of family tree going on there that we could reference. So if TLP is still going in about 20 years, we'll keep...
Which it totally will be.
Yeah. Any other news?
That's it for me.
I think that is all the news that is fit to whatever the equivalent of print is.
Now, we do have talking points this week, but of course, the main topic on the agenda is the Yambag Awards. After they took a year off, because they were so exciting the first time around, we didn't think people had recovered in time. We think they've had a sufficient rest period on the outside of the ring now, like in a triple threat match. We're bringing them back in, and here are some of your Yambag Awards. So to present the award for the most egregious erasure from WWE history, Mr. Poit.
Why, hello, Jabba. Now, we had 3 nominees for this category, and we all voted, I believe, the same for this one, with Hulk Hogan being the first place winner for this, followed by AJ Lee in second place, and CM Punk in third.
Yeah, even though Hulk Hogan is probably the one of them that we care about the least, he definitely had the most significant impact on WWE history, and erasing him is somewhere around the same level of erasing Vince McMahon.
Yeah, I mean...
No one could erase Vince McMahon, damn it.
As much as we'd like to. I mean, it's one of those... Like, okay, I've never been a huge fan of Hogan. I started watching wrestling like in the late 90s, years after his prime, and on TV he was a bad guy, and behind the scene, like, as I was sort of getting into learning like the ins and outs of behind the scenes of wrestling, I had learned of his reputation as being a prima donna. So I've never been a huge fan of the guy, but I mean, it's pretty hard to not agree with the old sentiment, without Hulk Hogan, there is no WWE. Without Hulk Hogan, professional wrestling as we know it doesn't exist.
Even if you make the case that someone else could have done the same job in that spot, they didn't.
Which is bullshit, because how many times have they tried and failed to recreate Hogan?
Even if there were guys around that they could have put in that position and it would have worked to a similar degree, then we would have been talking about someone else being erased from history and how ridiculous it was, because it was Hogan that was that huge name for all those years. So never mentioning him again, it's going to be very difficult for them.
Yeah.
And the only reference they made, they did call him the Immortal One, I think, in one episode, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. But, I mean, it's... Oh, go ahead.
I do want to ask, have they really done that much to erase AJ Lee?
Well, they kind of trampled over her championship run, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean they'll still...
They don't emphasize it, but, I mean, it's definitely not... I mean, they don't mention it much, but they definitely do mention it whenever they talk about, Nikki Bella's record-breaking win or Charlotte breaking said win. I mean, it's not like how WWE completely avoided mentioning AJ Styles' time in TNA when they did their recent article.
It seemed like to me with AJ Lee that they mentioned it just so it would look as if they're not erasing her. Like while they're scrubbing out all her history, they would then point out, yes, this is the thing that's breaking the record held by AJ Lee. And then after that, they don't have to mention her again because her record's been broken. But
Yeah,
that's how it seemed to me.
It was a more public overwriting of her history. I mean, like, how many times have they just randomly said, like, some people say so-and-so started the Divas Revolution, but, I mean, if you trace it back, it was AJ. I mean, AJ was the one who got people talking about female characters in wrestling who weren't just disposable eye candy.
I believe it was WWE.com that attributed the initial women's championship match in NXT, Charlotte versus Natalya, as the start of that.
Yeah, but I mean, that's still wrong though, because AJ was the most popular character on Raw a full year before that.
Fair.
But I mean, even so, you know, coming out and saying, hey, we're ignoring this person for being married to a guy who openly hates our company is not as bad as pretending the biggest star in the entire history of the industry never existed because he said some bad words.
Yes, definitely. And I think as far as Punk goes, they did mention him a few times shortly after his departure. And
well, they did release that best of CM Punk's ass video on WWE.com.
I'm sorry, what is this?
No, it was after Punk made those comments on Colt Cabana's podcast about how he had that growth on his lower back that turned out to be a MRSA infection. So WWE did a bunch of clips from that particular time period when he was claiming, where the camera was just focused on CM Punk's lower back to try and say, see, there's no growth there, I don't know what you're talking about. But it really was just like, here's CM Punk's ass for 5 minutes.
Well,
so, I mean...
I think I do remember this.
You would, wouldn't you, Point?
I'm not the one who brought it up.
So, moving on from that award, our next award, which we're going to get to right now, is the best destruction of a wrestler's future by entrenched talent, which is something that happens quite often. So, to present that award, we have our special guest, Mr. Point.
Why, hello there, Java. It's good to be back. Now, in this category, we actually have a two-way tie for first place. The TLP triumvirate could not decide between The Undertaker destroying Bray Wyatt and John Cena destroying Kevin Owens.
Well,
coming in third place was John Cena destroying Rusev.
Yeah, I can see why that one's in third place, because Rusev, as interesting as he is and as good as he is, he's not quite on the level of a Kevin Owens.
No.
And Bray Wyatt has just been continually misused and trampled on by the entrenched talent, as this award puts it.
I would stand behind. I voted Taker over Bray Wyatt, specifically because Kevin Owens is already kind of rebounding from his John Cena-ing. He's having a very entertaining feud right now with Dean Ambrose, and the last couple of weeks he's looked like an absolute killer on Raw. So I think they still see the value in Kevin Owens. With Bray Wyatt, I mean, he's screwed now. Like, his whole character's existence is based around I am the new Undertaker. I am the man who is replacing the old guard as like the new, master of darkness and evil and fear and all this. He kidnaps the Undertaker, devours the Undertaker's soul, and then a week later, the Undertaker is back and he just beats the shit out of him. I mean, at least Kevin Owens put up a strong fight in defeat.
Yeah, I
Bray
think
Wyatt looks like a fucking joke now.
considering he stole the Undertaker and Kane's powers as well.
And
And then
then we
was
later
still
learned that
crushed.
he really just copied them and can't really hold on to them very well, apparently.
No, he can't. But with Kevin Owens, I felt like that was their opportunity, because the main event scene is looking a bit thin right now. Had they run with Kevin Owens immediately from that win over John Cena and just put him straight into the title picture, maybe have him duck John Cena for months. Like, I've got my win over you, I don't need to deal with you anymore, and have it drive Cena nuts. I think that could have been something very, very successful for them, and he would have been ready to slot into those boots left by Seth Rollins when he was out with his injury. And we wouldn't be left with this hideous Roman Reigns, Sheamus debacle that we've got, that they're calling a main event scene right now.
I do agree that it was a tremendous missed opportunity. I don't feel that it was as bad for Kevin Owens, though. I mean, like I said, Kevin Owens still has a future. Bray Wyatt is absolutely dead in the water now.
Well, I feel like that's a good seg into another award.
Yeah, it is actually, because it kind of ties in. So, skipping ahead a little bit, to present the award for Worst Blown Opportunity.
Actually, I was going to go to a different one.
Were you?
Most likely to win the World Championship in 2016.
Well, we could do both of those, actually. They do
Because
that together.
because that category was won by Kevin Owens, unsurprisingly, though we did vote Bray Wyatt as our second place pick for that.
So that was for winning the world title next year, was it?
Yes, this year now.
Oh, yeah,
And in a three-way tie for third place was Brock Lesnar, John Cena, and Dean Ambrose.
Well, I think Kevin Owens should be winning the world title this year.
Do you think he'll win it at the Rumble?
No. I don't think they're quite ready to move away from what they've established at the top yet.
No.
So I think it's going to be sticking with someone entirely predictable for now, which would be like a Cena or a Lesnar.
Yeah. I do think Kevin Owens is going to win the title at some point in 2016. I think he'll win Money in the Bank. I think that's how he's going to get it. Because that seems to be their way of getting a new heel to the top of the company now. And he wins Money in the Bank and he wins the title in a really cheap way, and then he spends however many months getting his ass kicked until John Cena beats him.
That is the pattern, pretty much, isn't it?
That is a dark downward spiral.
Yeah.
By the way, Owen
But
Brown.
the thing about spirals is that they're a pattern, and so we can predict them.
Owen Brown says Jern, in all caps, needs to stay as far away from the world title and never have a shot again. He didn't say what he needs to stay as far away from the world title as. So he could have meant he needs to stay as far away from the world title as the champion's shoulder, which wouldn't be very far at all. And it means the opposite of what we think it does. And then never have a shot again because, of course, he would be the champion, so he wouldn't need a shot. So I'm thinking Owen Brown might actually be a huge John Cena fan under there, under that scaly, harsh exterior. He actually carries the everlasting love and positivity of John Cena and his never give up, can do attitude.
Do.
Do.
So, shall we go on to the worst blown opportunity then, because that ties into what we were just talking about with
Sure,
Kevin
let's
Owens.
do that.
I believe
and
that was one of the
do a couple of
nominees.
talking points.
We can go for the talking points after this one, I think.
Yes. So worst blown opportunity in a very resounding win was Kevin Owens not really going anywhere after his debut win against John Cena. In second place was anything involving Sting, followed by Bray Wyatt losing his big feuds and a lack of a heel turn for Reigns or Ambrose after Rollins' injury.
I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah, I think the top two were pretty egregious. I mean, we've already kind of talked about the Kevin Owens thing. I mean, Jabba pretty succinctly covered everything that was wrong with that. Sting, though, the way they treated him was fucking insulting. I mean, even if you've never watched an episode of professional wrestling, you know, you've at least seen what Sting looks like. You're aware that there is a professional wrestler named Sting.
He's a man known as Sting.
A man called Sting. But I mean, he's the biggest name who has never worked for Vince. This was a huge deal. He comes in, and okay, everybody for at least the last 10 years, even longer than that, has said if Sting ever goes to WWE, who do we put him against? The Undertaker. You do Sting and the fucking Undertaker. You have probably one chance to ever have Sting and the Undertaker at WrestleMania. And who does Sting face at WrestleMania? Triple H. In a joke of a match where he fucking loses.
Hey, let's not knock it. That was a match of the year candidate.
Shut the fuck up. So he loses, and then just decides, after months and months and months of saying, I'm here to get rid of Triple H because Triple H is a cancer on the WWE, immediately after Triple H brains him in the head with a fucking sledgehammer, he's like, I respect you. I want to shake your hand. And then the next time we see Sting, he's going after Seth Rollins, and what's his whole deal? You're not half the man Triple H is. I mean, what the fuck are we doing? You have one of the biggest names in the history of professional wrestling, and the only thing he does while he's there is jerk Triple H off. Unbelievable.
It's almost like Triple H is in charge.
It's just like I know the guy is an egomaniacal cunt, but that was just pathetic. That was bad fan fiction level of self-aggrandizement.
I think you summed that up pretty well. It was quite awful. And now, because of Sting's injury, he may actually never get a win in WWE.
That's the thing. They had one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. He loses twice, and now he'll probably never wrestle again.
Would it have been that crazy, even if you don't start him off against Undertaker, you could have him come in and just do the rounds beating other old guys that he never got to face back in the day? Like, that's his thing. He wants to complete his career by facing all the missed opportunities he had during his career. And then eventually some young gun challenges him and says, well, what about the new guys? Give us a chance. And then someone comes up and beats him, and that he sails off into the sunset then.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
we're not even going to get anything like that now.
Yeah, it's not like Chris Jericho would have jumped at the shot. It's not like they couldn't have gotten, to warm up for Sting and Taker, do Sting and Kane, let's say. Or Sting and Big Show.
Anyone who was any kind of name during that era, there's still...
I'm sure you could convince Shawn Michaels to do one more match and say, Sting and Shawn Michaels. Holy shit, there's a marquee match. But instead, Sting and Triple H, Sting gets hurt so bad he'll never wrestle again. That's his entire career. Or at least the entire career as far as Vince and company are concerned.
Pretty much. So that's sad. But Kevin Owens does get that award, though. And I think rightly so, because of the huge opportunity they had to completely change the landscape there. Sting would have been a nice moment, but at his age it wouldn't have completely changed the trajectory of the company.
No, you're right. I mean, WWE is so terrible about teasing something really, really cool and then just immediately nuking it. And Kevin Owens beating John Cena and then immediately losing to him twice in a row, that exemplifies everything you need to know about WWE.
Well, we've teased that this show was going to be really interesting, talking about the Yambag Awards, and now we're going to nuke that by going on to some actual wrestling talking points, I think.
What?
So, slightly less of a nuke, first of all. Now, Mr. Wehrman, I believe you watched a non-WWE wrestling show and you want to tell people that it was awesome.
I did, yes. This past Monday was Wrestle Kingdom 10, the big New Japan's version of WrestleMania, and there were some absolutely amazing matches on this show. I mean, the first they have like the big four-way light heavyweight tag team, big cluster hump at the beginning of the show, which is kind of becoming a tradition on Wrestle Kingdom now. But it was the Young Bucks, Red Dragon, Matt Sydal, and Ricochet, and God, I'm forgetting what the fourth team was. But the Young Bucks one was a really, really cool match. You had a Ring of Honor title match between Mike Elgin and Jay Lethal, which, again, extremely good. But the three matches that really need to talk about are like the final three matches on the show. Ishii versus Katsuyori Shibata for the Never Openweight title. This match was just a fucking war. Like, any match with Ishii, somebody is going to get seriously hurt. Like, he's just a concussion factory.
So he should never be signed to WWE, is what you're saying?
No. Like, he's the kind of guy who could never be anywhere outside of Japan. And then the top two matches, AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura for the Intercontinental title. I would honestly say, only 4 years into 2016, this is the standard. This is the match to beat for Match of the Year.
4 days.
Yes. Like, I honestly... I'm going to have a really hard time coming up with matches that are going to top it this year. It's almost... It was kind of like a greatest hits of AJ and NJPW.
I suppose we'll just have to hold out hope that we get Cena versus Roman at Mania.
And then, of course, the main event, Okada and Tanahashi, because every main event in New Japan is Tanahashi and Okada. But, I mean, this was a big one because, like, every time Okada has fought Tanahashi in the Tokyo Dome, Tanahashi has won. And, like, last year, Okada was so, like, frustrated and, devastated by the fact that he lost that he actually, like, broke down into tears. And this year, Okada finally beats him. It's like he finally gets the torch passed on, so he is now the top guy in Japan. Another absolute classic of a match. Not as good as Nakamura and AJ Styles, but damn good nonetheless. I absolutely recommend watching it. Even if you don't really follow New Japan, if you're not into Puro, but just the quality of the matches themselves makes it absolutely worth your time. Definitely go watch it.
So, Wehrman, you've definitely peaked right now. Are you prepared to start on that slippery slope down into the valley?
We're going to have to, aren't we?
Yes, our first WWE talking point. First of all, the Royal Rumble will be for the World Championship. And the odds have been stacked heavily against Roman Reigns.
Well, the odds were already stacked against him on Raw with 2 crooked referees.
Yeah, but why does that matter? You can just keep punching referees in the face until one of the non-crooked ones comes down.
Which apparently works.
You would think as soon as crooked referee number 1 gets punched in the face, crooked referee number 2 would come down and just immediately disqualify him for assaulting a referee. What the fuck?
Well, no, because then Sheamus can't win on a disqualification.
Well, they should have
can't win
said the
the
title
title.
can change hands on a disqualification, shouldn't they? If they really wanted the belt off him. If they actually...
Well, hell, Vince could have, if they really wanted the title off him, Vince could just, said, like, a minute into the match, the winner by referee decision.
Yeah. Like, it's one of those... When you have a authority figure who is transparently evil and is in complete control of the situation, why on earth is he handicapping himself like this? Like, it made sense back when, like, Austin was doing the same thing, because at the time Vince McMahon wasn't this overblown cartoon devil that he turned into. Back then he was like just this kind of square, upper class manager type, was just trying to do what's good for business, damn it.
And he had to be a bit more subtle as well.
Yeah, he had to be more diplomatic because he knew that Austin was the company's top draw.
So
Nowadays,
the problem with what you're suggesting is that when there is anyone with absolute power, if that power is not somehow checked and the power can just be freely exercised, it's not an interesting story. Like, how interesting of a story is it for Superman to stop a bank robber?
Okay, but A, they give Superman weaknesses in the comics and they don't put him up against people who can just destroy. B, there's no weaknesses for Vince McMahon at the moment, for any of the authority. There's no one keeping them in check except their own fucking incompetence.
It's not like there was some crazy loophole that Roman was able to exploit, and they say, tee-hee, you didn't think of that. It was just them being dumb.
At least when they had like a Commissioner Foley or a Sheriff Austin or something like that, where you had a good guy authority character being a thorn in the McMahon side, you could have situations like that. But now the authority has every possible advantage. They have total control over any match. They could just say, hey, I don't want Roman Reigns to be champion anymore. I'm stripping you of the title, and I'm deciding you don't get title shots ever again. But he doesn't because... And I get the argument because it doesn't make for a good story, except A, what they're doing isn't a good story, and B, just having the meta, like, narrative reason for it doesn't excuse the fact that there isn't an in-universe reason for it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It would be interesting just for them to have just completely wacky reasons for Roman to still have a chance.
Yeah,
like I was just thinking, I don't know why I thought of this, but like he had a contract from Mick Foley that Linda McMahon signed back in 2000.
Sure, but I mean, okay, if the story was that Vince McMahon is losing his mind and can't make them kind of important decisions to run the show anymore, that's fine. If the story is that Triple H is such an egomaniacal fuckwad that he keeps screwing himself over, then that's fine. Except that's not the story. The story is always that Triple H is the coolest and smartest guy in the room, and that the McMahons are just helpless in the face of the super cool and super unbeatable Roman Reigns, even though they're not.
Yeah, even if the story was, we have to give him a little bit of a chance because that helps TV ratings. If we just strip him of the title, no one will watch. If we dangle this impossible-to-obtain carrot in front of the audience, then they will actually stick around and watch, even if it's not possible. But that's not what they're doing either.
No. It's just Roman Reigns outsmarts the easiest to outsmart authority figures in the world.
And it's not even really outsmarting them, just punching the referee in the face.
Yeah.
Say, well, here's another crooked one. Punch in the face. Well, okay, here's a legit
like
referee.
If a Bugs Bunny cartoon was written by a severe head trauma victim.
I was going to say a Bugs Bunny victim, but you just said the same thing.
I think in terms of outsmarting people, Roman Reigns is at least a couple of steps below the whole Wabbit season, duck season thing. So, shall we move on?
Although, I will take all of that back if at WrestleMania Triple H goes full on What's Opera Doc with Elmer Fudd going kill the woman with his spear and magic helmet.
If that was actually his entrance at WrestleMania, and they had like mountains springing up,
it would be amazing. And it's in character for Triple H and his ridiculous Viking Warrior King entrances.
So, moving away from Roman a little bit, we probably think he's not going to win the Rumble because Triple H hasn't come back yet. So he might just come back and screw him out of it.
It seems like it has to happen where Triple H comes back and takes Reigns out of the Rumble, even if Triple H is not in the match himself.
Well, you say even if Triple H isn't in the match himself, but can you imagine if Roman Reigns just throws everyone out the Royal Rumble, breaks a new record, and there's one person left to come in and Reigns is staring down, and then suddenly...
And the surprise 31st competitor, Triple H.
And then he comes out and then wins by some crooked means, and Triple H is your new champion heading into WrestleMania to be challenged by Roman again.
Oh,
that does seem like the kind of thing he would do.
So,
I mean,
instead of just fighting Roman through his proxy, Sheamus, he would actually be doing it himself now.
Yeah. Which, I mean, okay, I absolutely think they're going to do Roman Reigns and Triple H at WrestleMania. I don't think it's going to be for the title. I feel like the title match is going to be Cena and Undertaker. But, yeah, I feel like that almost has to be the title match. But
So do you think Cena's winning the Rumble?
Yes. I think Cena's winning the Rumble, and he's going to go in defending against Taker.
Interesting.
And I think I think Cena and Roman are going to be the last two. And then at like the last possible second, just as Roman looks like he's going to throw Cena out, Triple H runs in and like trips him or low blows him or hits a pedigree or something, and Cena chucks him out. And which will give Cena heel heat, because no matter what, Cena is going to be the heel going in against The Undertaker in Texas in Taker's last match ever. I'm not saying they're going to turn him heel, but they might as well roll with it, like they did with RVD during One Night Stand 2.
Now, here's the optimist in me speaking for a minute. This is a Royal Rumble, a match in which people do not have to be pinned, and there is a potential for someone to become the new World Heavyweight Champion without it being at the expense of someone that they traditionally don't like to be pinned. For example, you've got your Roman Reigns and your Cena now. Having someone beating them for the title might be too much, but having someone throw them over the top rope, much like winning a ladder match, it's something that it's not seen as hurting them from the management standpoint. So there is an opportunity for a new champion.
It's something Maven could do to Undertaker, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you pick of the batch of guys who haven't won the title before or who have been out of the main event scene for a while? It would be a really good opportunity for someone like a Kevin Owens or a Bray Wyatt.
Bray Wyatt's my pick.
It would be a great opportunity. I don't think they'll do it, but it would.
I think with WrestleMania right around the corner, they're going to go with one of their safe bets. But it would be a great opportunity for Bray Wyatt or some sort of like accidental miscommunication, and Dean Ambrose accidentally chucks out Roman, and Ambrose becomes champion, and Roman's all like, "What the hell, bro?"
Well,
what if they do this to have some dissension amongst an established group such as the League of Nations, and you have someone like Del Rio or Rusev winning the Rumble?
Did you just call the League of Nations? Did you say there was dissension in an established group like the League of Nations? I'm using
the term loosely, okay?
I say they've been established as a fucking joke, but that's technically still being established.
They won a match this week.
So did Heath Slater. Okay. So moving on from
that was
because we're going to get further opportunities to talk about the Royal Rumble. And should we move on to the League of Nations, actually? Because
Sure.
it is fair to say they have taken a little step up. Because this week they did win a match, as you said. They weren't just made to look like complete chumps. They did beat one of the tag teams that were... Well, I suppose they were voted Tag Team of the Year, but we all know that's a joke. But they did defeat the Usos. So does this mean that they could be stepping into the tag division? Because you know they like shoving together guys and pushing away all the established teams, don't they, now and then?
That's very true. Like, there is no greater force in the tag team division than two randomly thrown together singles guys.
Certainly true. So you think a couple of the League of Nations guys could pick up the tag titles at some point, maybe try and put more belts into that group?
Rusev and Barrett as tag champs, Del Rio as U.S. champ, Sheamus as world champ. They're the new evolution.
I don't think Sheamus is getting the title again anytime soon.
Neither do I, but I think the rest of your plan's okay. And if Sheamus is the only one without a belt and he still comes out like really happy and smiling with the rest of them.
It would be amusing. Like, the group originally formed around Sheamus as the champion, and then like 2 months later he's the only one without a title.
That would be quite funny. So, I mean, we don't hold out too much hope for the future of the League of Nations. They do have their own theme music, though.
They had their own themes like a week in.
Yeah, they do. So, I think we should go for our next awards.
Ooh.
So, to present the award for Most Likely to be Future Endeavoured in 2016, we would like to welcome out our special guest, Mr. Poit.
Why, hello, Jabba. Lovely to be back. Lovely to be back. Now, this is a somewhat, I suppose, negative award, but, you know, we've got to have some of those too, right?
We sure do.
Now, unfortunately, the person who was voted the winner of this category is TLP favorite, Bull Dempsey.
It's a shame. I mean, they kind of had something going with the whole bullfit thing and doing this odd couple routine with him and Tyler Breeze. And then Tyler Breeze got called up to the main roster to do nothing. And Dempsey just kind of vanished.
Yeah.
He did lose a match last week. And we're using that as a positive.
Yeah, and it was to, like, Ty Dillinger, wasn't it?
Well, Ty Dillinger, I think, is in the mid-card of NXT now.
Yeah.
And Bull Dempsey is beneath that, certainly.
Yeah.
It is a shame, though. He's had potential twice. Because the crowd, even if they haven't necessarily been firmly behind him all the way, they were at least interacting with him in a more positive way than they were with the likes of Baron Corbin. So I think they've definitely missed an opportunity with him. He's obviously still redeemable. He hasn't come up to the main roster and been made to look like a chump there yet.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Bull, okay, Bull's a hard sell, but at the same time, I've never heard an arena full of people chanting to Bull Dempsey, "You're shit and you know you are." Like some wrestlers I could mention.
Well, has Bull Dempsey ever wrestled in front of an English crowd?
Probably not.
I think they would probably replace those words with "bullfit" and "you know you are." I think that would have been quite funny. It's a shame though. His new music isn't quite as catchy either, and I think they're just making every effort to bury him almost. I think he's being held down by the man.
Now, the rest of this category, this was actually very close. All of these are very close. Second place for this one was Tamina, followed by Curtis Axel, Dolph Ziggler, then Adam Rose.
I think it's fairly safe to put Tamina high up on the list because I don't think she is as shrouded by the name Snooker as she has been in the past, just because his reputation is kind of circling the drain right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those, like, you could tell that for at least a significant portion of her career, she's only been holding on to the fact that, you know, her dad's Jimmy Snuka, and then it's like, oh, yeah, that's right, Jimmy Snuka's a fucking murderer. That was a thing that happened.
So what does she got after that? She has the imposing look and the splash where she lands with her knees and then kind of awkwardly falls onto them.
She like lands on her feet, then falls to her knees, then falls forward onto them.
It's like a multi-stage splash. It's for momentum building.
I would say Curtis Axel and Adam Rose may be saved by this new Job Squad stable they've got now.
You mean the social outcasts?
Yeah, that
I'm
going
to
to
call it the Job Squad because it's a better name.
We could just move on to talking about that right now, actually, since it ties in.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we think about that, then? The social outcasts.
Go ahead.
It is a good idea. So I feel like that all of the guys in this group, were trying to convey through their characters like an expression of frustration with not getting like live mic time, and that's why all of them were so ranty on Raw after the match. But I don't think it came across very well.
Probably not.
The problem is you've got 4 guys that the live crowds don't really care about at all, suddenly talking and telling you that you should care. So
Yes.
It's going to take some time, definitely.
Yeah. I feel like this is a good idea that will not get the chance to be played out correctly. I feel like them coming together right now is basically an excuse for somebody like Big Show to eliminate all of them all at once in the Royal Rumble.
Oh, gosh, that's like the worst thing that could happen.
It seems
and that's exactly why it's going to happen.
At best, they can hope to become the new 3MB.
Yeah, like I feel like they're all going to get thrown out, except they're all going to get like knockout punched by Big Show and dumped out of the ring, except for Heath Slater, because Heath Slater will get gorilla pressed and thrown out of the ring onto all of them, and that'll be the last we ever see of them.
Yeah, but it seems like Heath Slater, he had a bit of coverage recently when he was on like the Michael Cole interview bit, and he's been big on social media lately, and it seems like they said, well, people actually kind of like this Heath Slater guy, we should probably do something with him. Hey Heath, what do you think? Have you got any ideas for us to do something with you on Raw? And he says, well, how about you put me with these guys, and we form a stable of underappreciated talent. And they said, okay, we'll give you a chance with that, see how it goes. And then they'll give him a few weeks of it, and then they'll say, yeah, this isn't really working out, but we gave you a chance. Now we can say we gave you a chance, so off you go, like they did with Zack Ryder.
And yeah, but I feel like this could work. And in literally any other promotion in the world, this would work. Because people love underdogs. People love underachieving slackers with an attitude. Except in real life. But the McMahons, like when they see somebody who's, a social outcast, when they see somebody who doesn't fit in, when they see somebody who's weird or nerdy, they just immediately make it, he's a loser! Let's fucking embarrass him and humiliate him every single week. It's what they did with Zack Ryder. It's what they did with Damian Sandow. It's what they did with all 3 members of 3MB. It's what they're still trying to do to the New Day.
And speaking of 3MB, did anyone notice that Heath Slater's music, it says, I'm a one-man band, and then later on in the music it says, we're a 3-man band.
Are you serious? Yeah, they only changed the opening line?
Yes.
It's really pathetic.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe they just don't expect his music to ever play that long, because he never gets an entrance and he doesn't win, really.
That is honestly pretty amazing.
Is it as bad as that song that really crudely had, yo, you're dealing with the X Factor? Blasted on.
Oh god, that was one of the worst ever.
That was a truly horrible theme.
Yeah, it was just a really lazy job converting it into theme music. B, the original song sucked anyway because it was Uncle Cracker.
I remember having a discussion with my high school geometry, the group of us sitting in one part of the class, about how that theme song was awful.
Yeah, but
I think that says it all.
It's like WWE is like, well, we need to give an awesome theme song to X-Pac and his new stable. Well, we just got Kid Rock for The Undertaker. Let's get Kid Rock's shitty drummer who looks like if the lead singer from Smash Mouth did meth. Smash Meth.
Well,
TLP, everybody.
let's go on to our next award then. So, to present the award for Best Salvaged Garbage, we have Mr. Poit.
Why, hello there, Jabba. Now, Mr. Jabba, was it you who proposed this category, or was it you, Werman?
It was me.
Werman, would you like to tell us the difference between this category and Most Improved?
Certainly. Most Improved does not necessarily mean that they started off bad and now they're good. It just means that there is a significant difference in where they started in the year and where they are now. A decent or even good wrestler can become a great wrestler and be Most Improved. This is something that starts off categorically bad. Like, there is nothing good about it, and through work, dedication, or just ridiculous stubbornness, gets turned into something good. This is the equivalent of those guys who make art out of junkyard scrap.
So there is crossovers, there is potential for someone to pick up both of these awards, but the salvaged garbage starts at the bottom and works its way up into something that's acceptable or good, whereas Most Improved is just a jump on any point of the spectrum.
Yes. Now, we voted unanimously for this category, voting The New Day as the winners, followed by Roman Reigns.
I think that's definitely fair, because The New Day, if you remember around WrestleMania season, that was the most cringe-worthy thing on the entire show, and it went from there to not only being salvaged, but becoming the best act on the entire show.
Mm-hmm.
So that is definitely a salvage job, and all it took was them saying, hey, look at these guys everybody hates. How about we turn them heel?
Yes, like going from the guys who are annoying because they clap and sing and are aggressively happy to being the guys who people hate because they clap and sing aggressively and sarcastically was brilliant in its simplicity. Like, I mean, it plays to their strengths so much better than the original incarnation of the New Day. Xavier Woods is a weird guy, and so is Big E. They're weird, nerdy guys, and Kofi Kingston is just that kind of like, hey, me too, that he fits. And so all three of them just going over the top with how goofy and weird and nerdy they are has made them the highlight of every week for like 6 months now.
I think probably the height of their nerdy appeal was when Kofi and Xavier fused into Sheamus.
Yes.
That was a little bit over the top, wasn't it? And I think also on this list, Roman Reigns, salvaged in terms of, obviously he was one of the most despised people in the entire company, and they've at least got him to a point where people are, at worst, they just don't care, really. They're kind of indifferent towards him at worst, and then usually he gets a positive reaction nowadays.
Yeah, now he's just like, he's mildly loathed.
Yeah, I mean, we may not like him.
I do.
Some of us may not like him, but he's not the worst thing on the show. They've shown that they sometimes know what to do with him. Not all the time, but he's definitely been salvaged from where he was.
Yeah. Like when they're not doing these awful Bugs Bunny skits with him, he's great.
Mm-hmm.
But once they just decided he needs to be cooler and smarter and tougher than anyone in the world, then he's insufferable. But he's still better than he was.
Succotash.
Yeah, he's better than he was at the beginning of the year when even The Rock coming in couldn't save him from turning the Royal Rumble into a catastrophe.
So let's move on to our next award then. And presenting the award for Best Accompanist, which I'm assuming is totally different from Best Manager, which is what I would have called it. But I suppose I can see why it's not called that. We have Mr. Poit.
Why, hello there, Java. Wonderful to be here, as always.
Are you going to defend
Now,
the naming of this category first?
Well, we called this category Best Accompanist rather than Best Manager, because we also wanted to include people such as valets, Alexa Bliss, Lana, those kind of people, as well as people who are not really managers, but still accompany someone to the ring, like, say, Joey Mercury.
Fair enough.
All right, now for this category, this was incredibly close, but just winning first place barely was Paul Heyman, beating Xavier Woods in second place, and then in third place we have Lana, then J&J Security.
My first instinct was to vote for Woods as number one, and then I thought, actually, the level that Paul Heyman elevates someone just by accompanying them anywhere is significantly greater than anyone else possibly in WWE history.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as much as I love the New Day, nothing gets me more excited to watch a segment of Raw than Paul Heyman getting on a microphone.
And New Day aren't carried just by Woods being there.
In fact, we're discussing best accompanist. Like, if we expand this beyond 2015, would you say Paul Heyman is the best accompanist ever?
I would honestly say, if he is not the best manager of all time, he is a damn close second to the only person who I could honestly say would maybe be better than Heyman is Bobby Heenan.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, I would say Heyman edges him out. But
Heyman
only
has managed to thrive as a manager in an era when managers are not even looked at as a thing that exists. It's not that they're not embraced, they just don't exist. So the fact that he's managed to pull it off is quite impressive. But on the other hand, does he just stand out as being amazing because he's really the only one? There's two different ways you could look at it.
No, he's not as amazing because he is one of few, and he is the best.
Yeah, he is leagues ahead of any other manager, especially on the mic. But just in terms of his presence, too.
He definitely adds the most to whoever he accompanies.
Though, all of this praise for Heyman is, of course, not to undercut how amazing Xavier Woods is.
Yeah, Xavier Woods is wonderful. And, Lana was great as well, at least until they got into this god-awful storyline they had with Dolph Ziggler and Summer Rae.
Which seems to have just been swept under the rug now.
Thank God.
J&J Security were very entertaining as well.
Yeah, J&J were great. I love that everybody kind of has their own accessory with that too. I mean, Paul Heyman, of course, just has the horrifying monster of Brock Lesnar at his beck and call. Xavier Woods has the trombone and the unicorn horn. Lana has the world's greatest ass.
Also nominated for this category were Carmella, Ric Flair, El Torito, and Alexa Bliss.
I don't know how El Torito possibly got nominated on that list.
I would honestly say at this point the dynamic between Alexa and Bliss and Blake and Murphy has switched. Yeah. Because at this point Blake and Murphy are her accompanists.
I agree with that, yeah.
Poor Blake and Murphy. So let's get to one more award before we go back to our talking points. So,
Okay. I'm just going to pause you for a moment. And are you saying poor Blake and Murphy because they're walking behind Alexa Bliss to the ring?
I'm saying poor Blake and Murphy because they are being overshadowed by a tiny woman who doesn't cast a very large shadow.
She is not unlike a pixie.
She certainly is not. So,
plus they get cool new Freddy Krueger outfits, so I mean, It's a win-win. They get to stand near an incredibly hot woman, and they get to look like Freddy Krueger. What's wrong with that?
So do many serial killers, though. So, moving on. To present the Best Newcomer Award, just to shake things up a bit, we have Mr. Poit.
Why, hello, Java. How are you?
Fine.
Wow, that was that was such an unhappy fine. All right, now the best newcomer that we determined. So we kind of left this category vague. This included both people who were called up from NXT to the main roster, as well as people who made their debuts fully within WWE. Now, the winner of this, by no surprise, was Kevin Owens, followed not very far behind by Sasha Banks, and then Asuka in third place. Samoa Joe and Apollo Crews also received votes, and also nominated were Neville, Finn Balor, and Charlotte.
I think Kevin Owens is the obvious choice here because I think it was in the space of the year he was a newcomer to NXT and the main roster, wasn't he?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Like a double whammy, and the amount he achieved in both of those runs has been quite impressive in one year.
Yeah, very true. Like his first marquee match in NXT, he wins the title.
Mm-hmm.
Then he shows up on Raw and beats John Cena while still holding the NXT title.
And stomps on the U.S. title.
Yes, that was amazing.
Yeah, there's no one else that really comes close in terms of newcomers that made the same impacts that he did last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a fair assessment. And he doesn't need to come out here and kind of get really angry at us for giving an award to Neville because we made the right choice.
I would say I don't think Sasha Banks. I hate saying doesn't deserve it, but in kayfabe, okay, A, she wasn't a newcomer in NXT at all this year. B, on the main roster, she hasn't done anything. Like, she's shown up and everyone knows her, and she's super popular.
Actually, you are quite correct. She did some absolutely amazing things this year, but none of that was, I suppose, really in the context of being a newcomer.
Yeah. And like I said, I love Sasha Banks. I honestly think she's one of the best workers, period, in the world. But
I think
in terms of the main roster, it's been the crowd chanting, "We want Sasha," and then WWE goes, "Okay, here's Sasha in a 5-minute match with a distraction roll-up. Ha ha ha."
I think we mainly wanted Sasha Banks to be up for more awards, really. And also, if you think about it, it was technically after her main roster appearances that she had one of her great matches with Bayley. So
both of them, actually.
Was it both of them after her?
Yeah.
Yes, the debut of the Divas Revolution was while Sasha Banks was the women's champion.
Yes, so you could classify both of those matches as during her newcomer stage, really.
Yeah, but they were NXT matches. They weren't part of her WWE career.
Yeah,
but they did heavily reference them on the main show, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't do anything with it.
Now, Asuka definitely had a rather nice debut.
Yeah, ever since she showed up, she has been a fucking murder machine.
So, do you think that this year on NXT we might get something like the King and Queen of Strong Style?
That would be amazing. I'm kind of hoping the League of Nations gets taken out by like a Japanese super stable of Nakamura, Asuka, and Hideo Itami.
Ooh.
That would fucking rule.
Interesting. So, shall we get back to our talking points?
Sure.
So, Dolph Ziggler. It's a sad time to be him.
Oh, God.
He's been rumoured to have been in the doghouse more times than anyone since CM Punk over the years. And now he goes and loses to Heath Slater.
Well,
How
I
do you
mean,
feel right now if you were named Dolph Ziggler?
I don't know. I feel like this is a one-time occurrence because they are introducing the new Job Squad stable. I think every other time they interact from now on, Dolph is going to just, I wouldn't say crush them, but he'll beat them.
But you think the fact that they chose Dolph to be the one to kick off this stable that might go nowhere tells you something? Like the way they chose, like the way Jericho was the one who put over Fandango.
That's very possible. I mean, they don't seem to have a whole lot of stock in Dolph Ziggler in any scenario. Although he is, I really hope he at least sticks around long enough to get one really good match with AJ Styles, and then, whatever.
I do think that Dolph Ziggler is in a state where a distraction loss to Heath Slater doesn't really hurt him.
Well, you could say that you can't really hurt someone when they're already dead. So, yeah. But he does, to me, he's just...
Okay, just because Ziggler sells everything like death does not mean he's dead.
He should be made into something, but I think it's far more likely that he'll end up being a future TNA World Champion than another WWE World Heavyweight Champion.
They actually pointed out this week on Raw, I think, that he's a former two-time World Champion.
That's true.
Not that that means a lot nowadays.
Including his, I guess, disqualification title win over Edge.
You've got highly credible world champions like Jack Swagger still floating around on the roster somewhere. Even the great Khali had a reign or two.
Mm-hmm.
So, moving on. Titus versus Stardust. It seemed like they were actually building a feud out of this, but what they really did was just end it in a throwaway match on Raw.
Was this the end?
Well, it seemed like it. It seemed quite decisive to me.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, though, how many times have we seen the good guy decisively beat the bad guy, and then the feud goes on for 3 more months anyway?
So, Titus and Stardust, Best of Infinity series.
Yeah. I mean, I like Titus. In Stardust, I feel, is the most unappreciated character in the entirety of WWE. I just wish they would actually do something with them.
They could have had an actual interesting feud, but I don't think it's going to be interesting from this point because we've already established that the good guy can beat the bad guy, and that's what you're supposed to be interested in the feud. You're supposed to wonder if the good guy can pull it out and vanquish the evil, but he's already done it. So what are we going to look forward to if they keep having more matches?
Well, WWE does that all the time. Like, every feud for a title is the challenger beats the champion like 5 times in a row, and then the champion retains on pay-per-view.
Disappointing.
I keep feeling like they might try and do Goldust and Stardust at WrestleMania because they've wanted to have the Rhodes Brothers have that match for a while.
WrestleMania pre-show.
Yeah, okay, at the WrestleMania pre-show. But
before the Battle Royal.
Yeah, I think it'll they'll eliminate each other from the Royal Rumble again. They will kind of hover around each other for like the next month or so, where they'll have just random tag matches. And then it'll look like they're going to get a solo match, and then they'll get thrown into the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, or some random-ass, like, 6-man tag that no one gives a shit about.
If Stardust actually did start floating around Goldust, like he was actually a few feet off the ground, in the background, anytime Goldust was backstage, that would actually be really interesting.
That would be great, and it wouldn't really be out of character for him.
So...
Yes, defying the laws of gravity would not be out of character.
I will say the only way Stardust gets onto the main show is if he is losing to Stephen Amell.
If Stardust actually started to defy the laws of gravity in an effort to rival Neville, and then Neville has to, sometime in the future, uncover the secret of how he's not really doing it. It's just some cheap parlor trick.
That would be great if it, like, the camera slightly pans to the left and the Ascensionary right there with, like, a pulley.
It would actually be great. So,
Michael Cole is pointing out that you can see the wires, and JBL vehemently denies it.
yeah, black helicopters, Maggle. That would actually be interesting. They should totally do that. Okay, let's move on to some lines of commentary and any crowd chants we've got for this week. So, Mr. Poit, have you got any up your sleeve?
No, actually, I do not.
Okay, well, I've got a few, and I'm pretty sure Wehrman wants to talk about something as well. So, one I've got from JBL, they were talking about when Becky Lynch had eggnog poured on her at ringside, and Charlotte didn't do anything to help. And the commentators were saying how terrible it was that she didn't come out and help her. And then JBL came out with the immortal line, "It was eggnog, it wasn't acid."
It what?
It wasn't acid, but he kind of shortened it to "want."
Because if something has been poured on you, you can take solace in the fact that it wasn't acid.
Yes, I just thought that was really a really horrible image to put in people's minds, like Becky Lynch having acid thrown in her face at ringside. It's just terrible.
And Charlotte doing nothing to help.
Yeah.
To be fair, WWE hasn't done their tour of the Middle East in a while.
Whoa.
Now, here's one. This is from Michael Cole, and after this line finishes, there is about a 10-second pause between anyone says anything else, just to give you some context. So, here we go. Becky's competed all over the world. She's won championships in... That's the end of the line. She's won championships in what? Or where?
Yeah, like, she's won championships in Ireland, she's won championships in a car, she's won championships in a scuba suit. What?
I mean, come on, Michael Cole. You're a reporter. You should know better. Do not end a sentence with a preposition.
It felt like someone maybe started screaming into his ear as he was mid-sentence, and that cuts
Yeah, it's like, don't you dare admit that there's a world outside of WWE, damn it!
Also, JBL, I believe this is the first time they've mentioned Umaga since his death, but JBL did mention him.
Huh.
Since before his death, in fact, because they'd never referenced him when he died. They didn't have a little tribute or anything. Presumably,
Yeah,
because
what
it
the
was,
fuck?
presumably because it was kind of drug-related, and they went through a stage of shying away from those. Like, they didn't mention Test either when he died.
Yeah.
But they did mention Umaga because they was talking about Rikishi's backside. And then they said, oh yeah, I've had their daddy's butt in my face and their Uncle Umaga too. Yeah, the line was something like that.
And that is the kind of thing that you say that out loud, and then you wonder why people make homophobic jokes about wrestling.
Oh, JBL. Never stop being JBL.
Now,
No, I want him to stop being JBL. I fucking hate him.
yeah, I think you want to mention something about JBL, don't you, Mr. Wehrman?
Like, look, okay, JBL has been essentially a action figure with a little pull string that says the same 5 phrases ever since he's become an announcer. But now it's just incomprehensible. Like, there was a point during Kevin Owens' match with Neville where he was literally just shouting random phrases with no structure and no context to each other. He's just, bowling ball, ball game, bourbon there. It's like, are you having a stroke? Like, it was just word salad.
Oh, come on. Haven't you noticed by now that whenever Kevin Owens does his little corner cannonball thing, JBL talks about Autobots going bowling?
But, I mean, he sounds like a patient with severe dementia. Like, his brain just isn't there.
Actually,
And this man is being paid, like, at least 6 figures.
JBL did clarify something a little bit. That thing that he's been saying about bowling balls, I think he is making some kind of old-time wrestling reference, I think. I don't think he's actually saying Autobot, even though it sounds like it. Because
Really?
because he said something about the AWA before he said it this time. So I'm thinking there's probably a wrestler with a name similar to Autobot who used to do that move.
I'll look that up.
Yeah. But it's still incomprehensible babble most of the time. So, shall we move on to some more awards? Because
Yes.
to present the award for most disappointing, we have Mr. Poit.
Why, hello. Good to be back. Now, for most disappointing, this can cover a range of things, whether it is a storyline that we're disappointed with, a particular wrestler we're disappointed with, or maybe the way a wrestler has been written, any number of things such as that. And, in fact, we have a tie for first place. A tie between The Ascension and the Divas Revolution.
Well,
I feel like that's... I mean, okay, the Ascension were never given a chance. Like, we knew they weren't really going to go anywhere, because even in NXT, the Ascension weren't very good.
I mean, if we had a category for most unimproved, it would probably be the Ascension.
I'd say like they had like the least surprising fall from grace, but it was just infuriating to watch these guys who they had built up in NXT for over a year as unstoppable monsters immediately get the shit kicked out of them by a bunch of old fuckers.
had they booked them like the Legion of Doom, then they would have been fine. If you're going to have these guys that come out and say, we're big and bad, we're going to crush everybody, they have to actually back it up. Otherwise, no one will care.
Instead, they're not even a joke, because there's no punchline.
They are, at their best, they're a fun-to-watch, hard-hitting team in the same style as the Legion of Doom / Road Warriors. But they seemed insistent on not utilizing them in that fashion.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I mean, that was frustrating and annoying and very disappointing. The Divas Revolution, on the other hand, there is nothing that makes me sadder than watching how that played out. I mean, not only was it a waste of phenomenally good talent, like I've said, Sasha Banks, one of the best in the world. Same with Becky Lynch. Charlotte's great, too. Even the established divas are pretty good, apart from, like, Tamina. You had this moment where you felt like we're finally doing away from the catty garbage with 2-minute matches and distraction roll-ups, and finally treating the women on your show as legitimate competitors with real characters and actual storylines. And immediately, it's like, now you're on teams that mean nothing, having matches that mean nothing, doing catty, bitchy, mean girl shit with distraction roll-ups. It was supposed to be this thing that catapulted women in wrestling forward by years, and instead, it set them back. Like, it did the exact opposite of what it set out to do.
You can't just transplant the amazing female wrestlers into the attitude that the main roster has towards women and expect it to succeed. Because you need both parts of the equation for it to work.
I am not a religious man, but I thank whatever gods may possibly be out there that Bayley did not come up with them. Because they wouldn't have known what to do with her. She would just lose every match by distraction or roll-up for months and months and months, and then get fired.
I think you know exactly what they would have done with her. They would have teamed her up with, I don't know, let's say Natalia and Summer Rae and called them like the Hug Sisters.
Yeah, and then she'd have some cringeworthy, awful sketches with Santino and is the Great Khali still around? And Hornswoggle. And then she'll get put in some awful storyline where they imply that she's sleeping with Dolph Ziggler.
Because you know the Zigman goes all the way. It's just depressing.
Also, I have done some brief research.
Oh.
Apparently, retired former AWA World Heavyweight Champion Otto Wands used as his finishing maneuver, crushing an opponent in the corner by charging at them.
Well, there we go. Auto wands,
JBL
not
just needs,
Autobots.
yeah, he just needs to learn how to talk now, and he'll be set. So, shall we move on to our next award?
Sure.
This one, to present the award for Most Improved, we have Mr. Poit.
Why, hello. All right, now, someone that we talked about already on this podcast in the context of these awards, won Most Improved, and it's important that we had the distinction between this and Best Salvaged Garbage, because the winner of this category, by a large margin, was John Cena. Followed by a three-way tie between Roman Reigns, Kofi Kingston, and Baron Corbin, and then after that, Jason Jordan and Bayley.
I think it's reasonably fair to put John Cena in the Most Improved based on what he did during the year. He wasn't really involved in the world title, which is something that annoys us.
There were very few stretches where he was at his, like, John Cena insufferableness.
Yeah, he did cause a couple of burials during the year, and his feud with Seth Rollins was a little bit irritating for the most part. But on the whole, it could be argued that for the first time in his entire career, he helped to elevate people more than he did bury others. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. Open Challenge had great matches almost every week with people who normally wouldn't get a chance to mix it up with Cena. He, showed up and got to get Sami Zayn over with the main roster crowd. He, even though he did beat Kevin Owens, I feel like the talking point about Kevin Owens is still that he beat John Cena in his debut match. So I don't think it hurt him as bad as people make it out to be.
To take a turn for the cynical, is it possible that the whole US Open Challenge concept wasn't so John Cena could put spotlight on these younger guys? It was so John Cena could say, you know what, if he was thinking, people really like all these mid-carders that have really great matches. While I'm not the champion, I want a piece of that action. I want to have great matches, and these guys can help me do it, but I'm going to beat them all.
I want to wrestle people who can't say no to taking a springboard stunner.
Did he finally ditch that?
I thought so.
I hope he did, because that thing looks awful.
It may have looked good once, which is why he did it 100 more times, and it got worse every week.
Yeah.
It really did get worse with time.
I love that Botchamania was able to make an entire video of nothing but bad springboard stunners. That was incredible. But to go back to Jabba's point about Cena just wanting to get the acclaim for being a good wrestler, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, wanting to be recognized for being good at your job. And even though he did beat everybody, he would have beaten everybody at the top of the card anyway, so I don't think losing to John Cena in a random match for the title is necessarily a bad thing.
And if you look at the people that actually did beat him, Kevin Owens, who then lost 3 times in a row, Seth Rollins, but there was some shenanigans going on there, and then he soundly beat Seth Rollins multiple times. Del Rio, who hasn't really been interesting since he came back, and you could argue didn't really need it. So the whole point of this challenge was to show that eventually a young gun will step up and take down John Cena. But that hasn't actually happened.
And then nobody did.
Yeah, instead it was Del Rio.
Yeah, so are we just going to completely ditch John Cena and the US Open Challenge now, or is he going to get it back and continue it? And then how long would he have to keep it up before someone would be able to take the credibility from ending it again? It just seems like a big missed opportunity to me.
Yeah. But anything that A, has John Cena consistently putting on good to great matches, and B, keeps him far, far away from the world title, is good in my book.
Yes. So, moving on to this is very close to Poit's heart, the "oh, come on" moment of the year. We have Mr. Poit to present it.
It would be amusing if this was the only category not presented by me.
Yes, it would. But we didn't think that far ahead.
All right, yeah. So this is obviously a segment, moment, whatever, that made us just collectively go, oh, come on. And we have another tie for this category. Sharing first place was Roman Reigns winning the Royal Rumble and Sheamus winning Money in the Bank.
And to, put that in perspective, that is your top babyface and your top heel to this day.
The two biggest ways you can elevate someone throughout the year: give them Money in the Bank, which is going to lead to the world title, or they win the Royal Rumble, which is going to lead to winning the world title. And they were both people that we really didn't want to see in that position. So on that front, it was just a really bad year as far as we're concerned.
I want to say Roman Reigns was in like 80% of the nominees for this one, wasn't he?
Roman Reigns was in all of them, I would say, because obviously winning the Rumble. Sheamus winning Money in the Bank was happened because Bray Wyatt knocked Reigns off that ladder.
That's right.
In a very close second place was Roman Reigns' Suffer and Succotash promo. Third place was Daniel Bryan putting over Roman Reigns during that promo on Raw in February. And
that one
then
made
finally
me so angry.
And finally it was Roman Reigns' Tater Tots promo.
So really this should have just been the Roman Reigns Fuck Off Award.
We can call it that next time.
The Roman Reigns Memorial category.
Yeah.
From next year we will refer to it as that, assuming we remember to do the awards then.
And again, I don't think any of us dislike Roman Reigns as a performer, but they keep putting him in these awful sketches and these situations where we don't want to see him win because they just make us hate him. And again, that's not a knock on Roman. He's fine. He's actually, I honestly think he's really good at this point. But the way they book him makes me never want to see him again.
And Sheamus being the Money in the Bank winner, obviously it did nothing for him getting that last world title. He hasn't gained any credibility.
No, it was worse. It was worse than nothing because now he's being seen on a major scale as a complete buffoon.
But what would it have done for any of the other members of the League of Nations, apart from, let's say, Del Rio? If you have someone like a Barrett or a Rusev, had they won the Money in the Bank and then taken the title under those circumstances, I feel like that would have actually helped them, especially Wade Barrett, even if he ultimately loses it back.
Barrett has needed something ever since the end of the original Nexus. You remember, before getting the John Cena-ing to end all John Cena-ings, Barrett was one of the most over and most loathed heels in the company. And now he is the easiest to beat person in the world. You could pick any random member of the audience, any of the random Make-A-Wish kids, and they could cleanly beat Wade Barrett and everyone would buy it.
Wow.
So, our next award, before we go back to some talking points, to present the Segment of the Year award, we give to you Mr. Poit.
Why, hello.
Is that getting old yet?
Segment of the Year are awesome things that happened throughout the year that specifically did not happen during a match. Winning this category by a fair margin was the Raw after WrestleMania, Brock Lesnar destroying the announce team, including an F5 to Michael Cole.
That was a great
I
one.
wish it had been JBL. And I wish he had died.
Dark. In second place was the trombone versus kazoo battle between The New Day and Edge and Christian, followed by a tie between Brock Lesnar destroying Jay Security's car and Taker and Lesnar brawling for half an hour. And then after that, we had the start of the Divas Revolution.
I think Brock Lesnar destroying the announce team and everybody else was a great moment. It definitely got my vote just for actually being there, witnessing it live.
I actually almost feel like because it involved the announcers, it would have been better to not see it live, because then we would have, actually heard the commentary.
Yeah, but how many people can say they were in the arena to see Michael Cole get F5'd?
Several thousand, apparently.
Yes.
But the downside of seeing it on TV is that we had to hear Byron Saxton getting thrown to the wolves.
Yeah, we didn't have to deal with that.
I honestly didn't even notice him come out. I noticed when I think it was Lawler came out to join him. I'm like, oh, hey, Byron Saxton's there.
Yeah, because we didn't notice that JBL had been taken out. And whoever else was there, I think it was Booker T.
Booker T.
Yeah, we didn't really see what was happening to them because they were buried under the announce table. So I think that was a worthy winner.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to our talking points then. And something in the Divas division that you needed clearing up desperately was the alignment issues of everybody. You couldn't really tell who was supposed to be on which end and whether there were any real heels or faces.
I mean, I think that have been pretty securely heels.
I think the line has certainly been drawn. I think Charlotte is definitely on the heel side of it now.
Yes, now she is. She had definitely been wavering.
Yeah,
but she's done a bit too much styling and profiling, and she's now a heel.
Yeah. I feel if they're going to keep playing up the whole she's girl Ric Flair.
The dirtiest diva in the game?
Yeah. I'm glad they are finally remembering, oh, that's right, Ric Flair is a dirty, dirty cheater, and we're supposed to hate him.
And it seems like Becky Lynch is firmly in the face side of it now.
Yeah,
Yes.
plus, hey, holy shit, Becky Lynch is finally getting a story.
Yeah.
Yeah, this could be the moment that redeems the Divas Revolution a little bit, or at least helps it pick up some steam.
Also, isn't it kind of weird that, Becky Lynch is now, the main roster Bayley? Where she wanted to just be a wrestler who has a group of friends and everyone's screwing her over.
And isn't it a strange coincidence that the Divas division has picked up significantly in our interest since the departure of Nikki Bella? Coincidence?
No, not even in the slightest. Anything that gets them away from John Cena's girlfriend. And I hate that I don't even my first thought of Nikki Bella is not even that her own qualities as a performer, which I honestly think are pretty good. But in the back of my head, I'm always just you're only there because you're John Cena's girlfriend.
I mean, some of the moments since her departure from the roster for a while have been cringeworthy, mainly due to Ric Flair's presence, it has to be said. But hopefully, once they use Ric Flair to establish Charlotte's character, they can then phase him out and let her stand on her own again, because he's the only one that occasionally makes it cringeworthy, in my view. So, let's move on, and Chris Jericho is back again. And people seem to care about 18% less than they did last time.
That is a very specific number.
Yes, I've been keeping a careful track on how much people care about Chris Jericho's comebacks, and it's been on a decline that looks something like this.
It's so... I hate being like this. Chris Jericho is in my top 3 favorite wrestlers ever. Chris Jericho is the reason I continue to watch professional wrestling. I remember tuning into some random episode of Nitro where Jericho was making fun of Dean Malenko, and I got so into, like, that son of a bitch, I want to see him get what's coming to him, that I kept watching wrestling because of that. Jericho is the reason I'm a wrestling fan. I should never, ever be watching my TV. Yes, ever be watching my TV and going, ugh, it's Chris Jericho. Ugh. Wake me up when it's over.
Do you want me to pinpoint the exact moment that people stopped caring about Chris Jericho? When Sheamus won the Royal Rumble instead of him.
Yeah. That was it. I mean, he still had those really great matches with CM Punk after that, but at that point he was just a CM Punk delivery vehicle.
Yeah, he was never seen as a threat really after that. And when he comes back, people just think, well, who's he come back to put over this time?
Mm-hmm.
And it's always...
I mean, that really is what Jericho was around for, just to put people over, even though he's... When was his last win?
They beat Bray Wyatt and then lost him.
Yeah.
Oh,
just,
right, of course, against Bray Wyatt.
Pointlessly beat Bray Wyatt because fuck Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, anyone can beat Bray Wyatt. I imagine the only person right now on the roster that Jericho wouldn't lose to would be probably Wade Barrett, of course. So he's probably just coming back so he can be in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
And then he'll probably have a match at WrestleMania with someone, or go into the Battle Royal at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I can see him facing maybe like Tyler Breeze.
Oh. Yeah,
Which honestly wouldn't be that bad.
It'd be a fine match.
Tyler Breeze on the new Fandango?
Let's not wish that on anybody. So, yeah, unfortunately, people are beyond caring about Jericho unless they do something with this run to change our mind, because he's been horribly mishandled the last few times. So, speaking of the Royal Rumble, the Wyatts seem to be going after all the big men heading into the Rumble match.
Yes.
What's the deal with that?
I guess
they seem to be establishing themselves as a dominant presence who might just take over the Rumble.
Or making all the people who could potentially throw them out angry.
Yes, that's the other possibility.
Yeah, that spot I was saying earlier about the Big Show knocking out all of the social outcasts and then throwing Heath Slater at them, there is an equally good chance that he will do that to all four members of the Wyatt family.
Why?
Can you imagine?
Because Vince McMahon thinks people still care about the Big Show.
How about Big Show and Ryback team up to lift Braun Strowman and throw him onto the other Wyatts? I could see it.
You know, if it was just the Wyatts trying to stop another Ryback versus Big Show match from happening, I would happily accept this as the Wyatts' official face turn.
If that was their gimmick, they just break up all the Best of Infinity series.
I would love the Wyatts 1,000 times more than I already do. If their gimmick was just like, no, we've seen this match too many times, stop.
You already beat him last week. No more. And then they just vow to interfere anytime those two guys are paired together. I'd like that.
Yeah.
So, before we go on to our final main roster talking point of the week, let's get some more awards out of the way, shall we? So, to present the award for Announcer of the Year, we have the legendary figure of Mr. Poit.
Hello. All right, so for the Announcer of the Year, this was another category which was very close. Just barely edging out Byron Saxton was Corey Graves in first place. Third place was Renee Young, followed by Tom Phillips, and then Rich Brennan.
Fair to say, the main roster announcers didn't get much love.
The main roster announcers did not get a single vote amongst the TLP triumvirate.
Yeah, because they're horrible.
Corey Graves is definitely the most surprising announcer of the year, because when you think back to how bad Alex Riley was, he was a breath of tattooed fresh air, wasn't he, Corey Graves?
Yes, he was.
When I was going through for this category to nominate people, I was just like putting on like basically everyone who had announced for this year, And I skipped Alex Riley.
You made the right choice.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Corey Graves, okay, I normally hate the heel announcer. I think it's just a stupid idea. Just having a guy who's constantly in your ear saying obnoxious shit, trying to undermine what's going on in the show. But Corey Graves actually does it well. He's there playing like the devil's advocate. Saying like all the like making sense of why the bad guys are doing bad guy stuff. I haven't seen a good heel announcer like that, honestly, since Heyman.
Another thing I like about Corey Graves on commentary is that he's not constantly referencing his own career, like to put himself over like JBL would do.
Yeah, to the point where somebody can do his finishing move right in front of him and he won't say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, anytime someone does a clothesline, JBL says something like, "Yeah, that looks familiar. I wonder where he learned that move." Or like, "It's the second best clothesline I've ever seen." Just, you know exactly what he's getting at. But Corey Graves is happy to put the spotlight on the people in the ring, and the humour that he puts in there, even if it's at the expense of the people in the ring, it's not in an attempt to make himself sound good. Like,
yeah.
JBL would joke about people in the ring to put himself over, I feel. I don't know if you agree.
Oh yeah, JBL shits all over anything on the show just to amuse himself and get himself over. He is a tumor on the show.
I was going to say leech, but okay.
I think when Corey Graves makes fun of somebody, it's generally consistent with the characters that are in there at the time. Like when he was making fun of Becky Lynch all the time for her change in attitude, and he felt that she was kind of encroaching on the turf of particular kinds of people. That was actually quite funny. So, shall we move on, unless anyone else has anything to say on the Announcer of the Year?
No, other than I continue to wish nothing but the worst on JBL.
I do wish that Renee Young announced more.
And William Regal, actually.
Yes.
Because we do miss the old, "Oh, hello, Renee" moments.
Also, Regal breaking down exactly why a particular move hurts in excruciating detail.
And his awful jokes.
Faster than the gypsies whip it.
Yes. So, to present the award for Feud of the Year, Mr. Poit.
Hi. All right. So for Feud of the Year, we actually had only 3 nominees that received any votes, and they were all incredibly close, all within 1 vote of each other. In first place, we have Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins, followed by Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens, and then Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker.
Those 3 were the only feuds this year where I felt these guys actually hate each other. There is actual emotion going into this, and I am actually invested in what's going on.
Yeah, when someone says think of feuds that happened during the last year, after those ones, you're really struggling, aren't you?
Yeah, it's not really a feud after that, it's just a string of matches. These were the only times where I felt like these guys have genuine bad blood and are out to get each other.
Yeah, but I mean, The Undertaker kicking someone repeatedly in the nuts will give you that impression, definitely.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just like the big pull-apart brawl where they, fought through like 3 or 4 different segments and came crashing through the walls like the end of Blazing Saddles.
And Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, they didn't even really need the matches. The feud was compelling enough without them.
That one standoff segment they did where Sami Zayn is trying to figure out what's your problem with me, and he's just like, is it just because your kid would rather wear my t-shirts than yours? I was like, oh, that I felt that one. It's like that just cuts so deep. But I would say through all of those, I would still say the best was Ambrose and Rollins, just because every time those two get near each other, it's just a blood feud.
occasionally they'll try and switch out Ambrose with Reigns, and it just won't have the same impact.
It doesn't work because they've set Roman Reigns up that he's too cool to be affected by that sort of thing. Ambrose, on the other hand, like, I feel like Ambrose bought into the Shield more than everybody else. Like, he genuinely loved that group and loved, like, his brothers, and then when he was betrayed, it broke his heart, and so now he just throws everything into just, I don't care if I die, I'm gonna fucking get you.
You felt like he needed the Shield, whereas Roman, you always felt as though because of his family and his look and everything, he was always going to get a chance regardless.
Yeah.
So, moving on, I think let's get the remainder of the talking points out of the way, and then we'll go to the 3 big awards at the end, or the 4 big awards at the end, should I say.
Awards.
Yes. So, Del Rio, his in-ring skills at the moment seem to be somewhat inconsistent. Occasionally there'll be a match, like his match with Cena, where not a lot happens, and it just doesn't seem to flow very well. And then sometimes it'll all click suddenly, and he'll be back to the old Del Rio who was putting on great matches. So what do we feel the factors are in determining whether a Del Rio match is going to be good or not? Is it just his mood, or is it down to his opponent?
I don't know, but he picks the weirdest time, like the weirdest times to put his work boots on, you know? Like, in the mid, like, I would say he had probably one of the best matches at the TLC pay-per-view, and it wasn't even an important match. And then, like, this random-ass tag team match on Raw. It's like, guess what? I'm here to work. It's like, well, why are you here to work now?
It's quite strange. And you have to wonder whether it is just down to who he's in the ring with.
Yeah, I feel like he's coming to terms with the fact that he's basically sold his fucking soul by coming back. And so now he's trying to decide, like, well, am I going to make the best of it while I'm here, or am I just going to collect a paycheck until my contract runs out?
I suppose the good thing about him leaving for that period of time, though, was that there are a couple of Del Rio shoot interviews out there now.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them not very kind to certain members of WWE management.
No, I mean, and his debut promo in Lucha Underground was just, like, hot fire. And then you come back and watch League of Nations Mex America Del Rio, and it's just depressing.
Yeah, how much garbage are they going to shovel onto him? He's had Mex America and the League of Nations in the space of a month.
I feel like they have to do something major with Del Rio this year, or they're never going to.
It seems like this whole run of his right now is going to kind of end with a whimper. He's probably going to lose the title back to Cena, and then maybe hang around in a tag team for a while, possibly. Not really looking forward to it, even if he puts on a really good match. So, was there anything noteworthy in the NXT world going on this week?
This week on NXT was part 1 of their 2-part year in review stuff. Part 2 is tonight.
So, no.
So, was there anything interesting on that show? Is it worth people checking out?
They showed a preview, I guess. They showed part of the Neville versus Cesaro match from the Arnold Classic last year, which has never been broadcast and will be on the Best of NXT DVD coming out later this year.
That's interesting, at least.
Mm-hmm. It had quite a cool finish. If you have a bit of time, I recommend watching just that bit of NXT this week that showed that part of the match.
Are they gonna ever release the Itami and Tyler Breeze match where he breaks out the GTS?
I believe that is on the special edition of the DVD.
Special edition. Does it have like weird dinosaur alien creatures walking across the front of the shot every now and then?
I don't know.
That's what special editions tend to be known for.
I see.
So, let's move on to the big four, shall we? The final yammies of the night.
The Yammies, really?
Well, that is the unofficial nickname of the Yambag Award.
No, it's not.
In some circles it is.
Is this a circle of one?
It could very well be.
Okay.
So, first up, to present the award for Match of the Year, we have Mr. Poit.
Hi. You know, I should probably get one of you guys to do at least one of these awards.
Yeah, I feel like your heart's not really in this anymore.
Anyways, so for Match of the Year, we had some quite amazing matches this year. Half of them with Sasha Banks in them.
At least half.
Now, winning this category, to no one's surprise, was Sasha Banks versus Bayley at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn.
Yes.
The first match. In second place, we have the triple threat Lesnar versus Cena versus Rollins match at the Royal Rumble. In third place, Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch at TakeOver Unstoppable. Followed by John Cena versus Kevin Owens at Elimination Chamber. And then after that, other matches which received votes was the Four Horsewomen four-way at TakeOver Rival in February. John Cena versus Sami Zayn on Raw in May. And Bayley versus Sasha Banks Iron Man match at TakeOver Respect.
I think maybe that one slipped down the order a little bit just because people look at it and think, well, it wasn't the other Sasha Banks versus Bayley match.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of incredible that the Iron Woman match can even be that far down the card, but that's not a slam on it. That's a testament to how fucking good everything else was this year. I mean, especially the Battle of Brooklyn. That was a perfect wrestling match. Like, I would honestly put it in maybe my top 3 favorites of all time.
From a storytelling standpoint, that match is definitely the number one this year. From a technical standpoint, I think Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch was a couple of notches up. But
I'd agree with that.
Not from a storytelling standpoint.
That was the one.
Bayley pull through.
Was that the one that ended with the bank statement off the top rope?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So that one was really good as well. I think you could really just call it the Sasha Banks Award this year.
Yeah, holy shit, yeah.
Because she cleaned up, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if they use her correctly, she could be the one to bring credibility to women's wrestling again. So it's not going to happen because they're not going to use her correctly.
Now,
Under
I
the current regime.
do kind of think WrestleMania they'll have. I think they're saving Sasha Banks for Mania, so they're going to have Sasha Banks take the Divas title from Charlotte, and then maybe at like SummerSlam, Bayley will come up with the NXT Women's title, and they'll do like champion versus champion, which would be fucking incredible.
So actually, I just looked at this. Of the 7 matches which received votes by us for this category, 4 of them included Sasha Banks.
So I think if she's going to win the title at WrestleMania, Sasha Banks, probably against Charlotte, then how angry would we be if they get, let's say, 7 minutes?
Oh God! And you know they will.
Can you imagine if there's some kind of musical performance that takes up 10 minutes, and all of that cuts time out of the women's match?
Yeah, Sasha Banks and Charlotte get their match chopped in half because they needed to make more room for Machine Gun Kelly.
So will Sasha Banks break away from Team Bad and turn face to go up against the heel Charlotte?
She certainly should, and then she could defeat like Naomi at the prior pay-per-view, perhaps, for the number 1 contendership.
Yeah, I feel like the teams need to just end because PCB is already broken up. Team Bella, there are no Bellas right now.
Maybe even just have a complete Team Bad implosion, and all 3 of them have a triple threat match against each other for a number 1 contendership for WrestleMania.
That would
Like
be
they're the only stable right now, and they don't do anything. So get rid of it.
Yeah,
They
Break
stand
them up.
backstage and watch matches.
Yeah,
Tamina
break
get
them up.
booed and then she's gone.
Let Sasha Banks become the legend that she is going to be, and Naomi is still good. She still has a place on the show. Tamina needs to go away.
I think we can all agree there. So, linking on nicely to our next award, to present the award for Diva of the Year, Mr. Point.
All right, so this category was first and second place were incredibly close, just one vote off from each other. But Sasha Banks just barely beat out Bayley to win this one, followed by Paige and then Becky Lynch.
Yeah, that's pretty close. I honestly though, I did not nominate Bayley for Diva of the Year.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Mr. Nowhere Man nominated Bayley for Wrestler of the Year, and I did strongly consider putting both Bayley and Sasha Banks in the Wrestler of the Year category.
Yeah. Well, okay.
We should have really called that Superstar of the Year, since that's what they call the male wrestlers.
Yeah. Sure, but I mean, okay, Bayley, out of everybody, had one of the best years I have ever seen for any wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she was in, honestly, 2 of the 3 greatest women's matches in the history of wrestling. The Battle of Brooklyn and the Iron Woman match. And while Sasha Banks went on to flounder, completely misused and unappreciated on Raw, Bayley became the heart and soul of NXT. Like, she is now the cornerstone of that whole promotion. And went on to have, not the same level of classic matches, but was able to carry even, like, fucking Eva Marie to a surprisingly great match. When Eva Marie shouldn't be able to lace up her boots without screwing up. Sasha definitely deserves to be the best Diva of the Year. But in terms of consistently good to great work in the ring and in character, and not having a single noticeable low moment, I would have to say Bayley was the best wrestler of the year.
To somewhat counter the point, I would say, first of all, Bayley, yes, was in 2 of the 3 best women's matches possibly of all time, but somebody else last year was in 3 of what I consider to be the 3 best women's matches of all time.
Yes.
And also, I think possibly Bayley is getting slightly favourable treatment, maybe in your eyes, because her success came in the second part of the year, so it's a bit fresher. Whereas Sasha Banks had her consistent period throughout, early on in the year towards the middle, and then it kind of tapered off at the end. But if you remember back, Bayley wasn't doing a whole lot at the start of the year.
Now, while we're discussing which category these 2 women deserve to be in, I feel it bears mentioning that on WWE.com there was a article posted about like the 10 things we want to see in 2016, and one of them was a woman winning a men's championship, and the example given was Sasha Banks winning the Intercontinental Championship.
I would love to see that. I would love to see Sasha win the Intercontinental title. I would like to see somebody, like I was saying earlier, do like the Japanese super stable with Nakamura and Hideo and Asuka. Mm-hmm. I want to see like Hideo and Asuka take the tag team titles.
Ooh.
Yeah, unfortunately, that'll never happen. But also, I think you need the right woman to be believable against men of all sizes, since there are obviously no weight limits in WWE. Yeah. So eventually you're going to run into, let's say, the Big Show. Now, you could say that Sasha Banks beating the Big Show is just as believable as Rey Mysterio beating the Big Show. But I think you do have further to convince people.
Now, was Rey Mysterio beating the Big Show ever believable?
Not to me.
Okay, but I do agree that it would take a woman who has the right build for it, and I feel like the two that they've got on NXT right now who could kind of pull it off are Asuka, and if she gets good enough to warrant it, Nia Jax.
Yeah, since China, who have they really had that they could have?
Beth Phoenix.
Beth Phoenix, definitely.
Yeah, Beth Phoenix could have done it.
Natalia.
I'm not sure about Natalia.
I can see Natalia maybe taking the U.S. title.
I think
they're basically the same level at this point.
Think, this isn't meant to sound harsh, but I think Natalia, people think she is kind of bulkier and more muscular than she actually is just because she has a big face and a big head.
Maybe.
But yeah, I mean, I think the only guy she's been able to have any physicality with in the past years was El Torito.
Yeah, unless they ditch their policy of men not being able to hit women. Like when Roman Reigns this week was really, really angry at Stephanie and she was like cowering away from him. It was like, yeah, this is kind of awkward because the crowd are really feverish and they want him to like kick Stephanie out the ring or something. But really all he did was get in her face and said, look what I'm going to do to a man instead.
Reigns did push Vince into the ropes, which made Stephanie like get hurt and flip over or something.
Yeah, that's as far as they can go. They can't even like shove a woman. Which in context can make perfect sense. It's all about how you present it. It's not black and white.
Yeah.
It's not anyone who ever hits a woman is a terrible human being who should be executed, because that's incredibly sexist. If you're in a situation where you have to defend yourself against a woman.
I mean, professional wrestling is a context wherein hitting someone in which to settle an argument is accepted.
Yes.
It's not a good attitude, but it's an accepted one.
And so...
I remember Stone Cold stunning numerous women just because they wouldn't drink beer with him.
Including Stephanie.
Oh gosh, the stunner to Linda.
Oh god.
Let's not talk about that one. Has Linda ever taken a move well?
No.
She had the worst stunner ever, the worst tombstone ever.
Did you have to do anything for that tombstone?
I don't think so. She did have one of the greatest lines in wrestling history, though. Even though it was kind of wooden when she said, "No, Vince, you read my lips. I want a divorce." Great times. So, shall we move on to our next award?
Yes.
To present the award for... Wait. Come on, don't jump the gun now. We've only got 2 left. People want to hear the introduction. So, to present the award for Tag Team of the Year, we give to you Mr. Poit.
Hi. All right. So, this category, I mean, I think it comes to no surprise whatsoever that the New Day wins this one. I mean, it's basically just seeing who wins, like, 2nd and 3rd and 4th place.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And to answer that question, we have Jason Jordan and Chad Gable in 2nd place, followed by Tyson Kidd and Cesaro, and then the Vaudevillains.
I think that's fair. I mean, I don't know how the Usos managed to get the WWE's Tag Team of the Year, considering they were out most of the year.
Yes, you do. They're related to The Rock.
Yeah, that's why. But Tyson Kidd and Cesaro had a really good run that was memorable.
There were a few other teams that we nominated which were did not receive votes, but the Usos were not even nominated for the Yambags.
I think Jordan and Gable need more time, and maybe they could usurp the New Day.
Yeah.
With time.
I think this will be Jason Jordan and Chad Gable's year, because they are ridiculously over right now. And I feel like they're being groomed to take the titles off of Dash and Dawson.
Well, someone should, because I don't think they're really that memorable either. I think they're going to be the next Blake and Murphy.
I think Dash and Dawson have a little more going for them than Blake and Murphy do, if only because they have better tandem offense and a way cooler finisher, and they're much better at getting heel heat.
I suppose they have something more distinctive about them in that they they have this thing where they'll try and target people's body parts and injure them, whereas Blake and Murphy didn't really have anything unique about them.
Yeah.
Even their look, they just looked really generic.
They're an Alexa Bliss delivery system.
Pretty
Yes.
much.
And if someone invented an Alexa Bliss delivery system that wasn't actually made up of two wrestlers, then they would be very rich. So if you had to turn Dash and Dawson into a delivery system for someone after their run comes to an end, who do you think it would be?
What, say again?
If you had to turn Dash and Dawson into a delivery system for somebody after they lose the titles inevitably, who do you think it could be?
I would have them join Bullet Club.
Ooh.
Like, be a secondary cronies for AJ Styles.
Could be. And the New Day, as far as getting Tag Team of the Year, do we look at it as the tag team of Big E and Kofi as the actual tag team portion of it, since they wrestle most of the tag matches? Or do we look at them with kind of the Freebird way of doing things?
I definitely view them as a group of three. They are not complete without Xavier.
No. It's like how Roman and Seth Rollins were the tag team of the Shield, but Dean Ambrose was always right there with them.
By the way, wouldn't it be great? I hope a member of the New Day or WWE Creative is listening to this and go through this idea. But if during their entrance, when they come out onto the ramp, they all stand in front of the Titantron with their horns up in the air, and all the three horns meet, and then in the Titantron, they'll line up the camera so directly behind them like a big stream of light fires up into the sky.
That would rule. Maybe like almost like a Death Star laser.
Yeah, and then like a big glitter explosion comes down on them.
I feel the need to point out that in recent months they have given up on timing Bayley's the crescendo of Bayley's entrance theme with the wacky inflatable arm waving tube men.
I know, and it's so disappointing.
Okay, so shall we move on to what's supposed to be the big award of the year? But you could argue that some of the others were more important in our minds this year because of the diva presence in them. Or the women's wrestlers, shall we say.
Yes. So I suppose we'll call this Wrestler of the Year, Superstar of the Year, whatever conveys that we were limiting this specifically to male performers.
Yes, so to present the award specifically for male performers, we have Mr. Poit, an expert in the field.
All right. So the winner, I think. I think we voted for the exact same first and second place for all of us here, which was Seth Rollins in first place and Kevin Owens in second place.
Yeah.
We differed in our third place voting, which caused Dean Ambrose to win third place and Brock Lesnar fourth.
I think
it was such a weird year for the guys. I mean, like so many of the really promising or really like amazingly popular talent got taken out by injuries or other weirdness. Daniel Bryan, the best wrestler in the world, gone pretty much the entire year. Cesaro gets taken out halfway through the year. Sami Zayn, Tyson Kidd, Hideo Itami, all these great wrestlers who, if they had stayed healthy, if they hadn't gotten hurt, all of them should have had a completely legitimate shot at being Wrestler of the Year. And so, like, while this was definitely a banner year for the women, for the guys of WWE, it felt like a lot of, like, who's the best of what's left.
Yeah, the fact that a part-timer who only had, 3 or 4 matches this year was able to get into the top 5. That should tell you something. But I think it was definitely a worthy winner in Seth Rollins.
Yeah, I would say all those injuries and all those absences does not subtract from Seth Rollins carrying the company on his fucking back like Atlas.
Yeah, he certainly did. There was that period where he was really the star of the show. Seth Rollins and the New Day really were the tale of the year. They really carried it.
Seth Rollins is the man.
He is. He even had a statue.
But he's not half the man Triple H is.
Next year we should do a half the man Triple H is award. Someone who comes up to being exactly half the man that Triple H is. We could probably just give it to Hornswoggle, to be honest.
Just look for who on the roster is closest in weight to half of Triple H.
Yes, and Kevin Owens in second place, and he was right up there with the best newcomer as well, wasn't he? He won that, didn't he?
Kevin Owens did win Best Newcomer, yes.
Yeah, so you would have to say he's one of the early front runners for Male Performer of the Year next year, if he continues where he left off.
I certainly hope so. He has been the most interesting part of the show, and not in terms of I'm always happy when he's wrestling a match or when he's cutting a promo. He doesn't give me just the sheer ridiculous joy that the New Day does, or I'm not as impressed as I am by, Seth Rollins, like I said, carrying the entire show. But Kevin Owens has done an amazing job of making a name for himself on a show where it is impossible to make a name for yourself.
And he's managed to avoid any bizarre booking of his character so far. He hasn't done anything that you would think is completely out of character yet, which is good. He hasn't been particularly running away from fights very often.
Yeah. I am waiting to see... Hopefully Sami Zayn gets called up this year. Hopefully before Mania. I need Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn at Mania. But
that would be nice.
It would be nice. That, or if they can't do it in time for Mania, SummerSlam. But I really hope they actually continue that feud and not just have some random ass throwaway match on SmackDown where they just offhandedly mention, these guys had some history in NXT. Well, really? Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And then the match just ends.
Some history. Oh, by the way, we had another comment from Owen Brown. Is there a Yambag Awards statue? What would it look like?
I don't know. Is this before or after the cheese grater?
I would say pre-cheese grater.
Okay. Well, ask Bubba Ray.
Well, is it just a Yambag statue, or is it like an entire Yambag region statue? Because those two could be very different things.
I don't know. I feel like that there needs to be 5 Yambags incorporated into the awards so that you can play Yahtzee with them.
Certainly possible.
You roll 5 dice for Yahtzee, right?
Yes.
And when are we going to get some Taz back on TV doing commentary?
Oof.
We've been sans Yambag for quite a while now.
I don't know. Is he still with TNA?
No.
Then probably never.
They replaced him with the Pope.
Really?
Who has not been very good on commentary at all. It's not quite as funny as Taz.
Oh, yeah, apparently he left TNA in April.
Yeah. So he still has his podcast, though.
He did his podcast where he accuses Ronda Rousey of fixing her fights.
Yeah. Get back to work, Taz.
Yeah.
So, I think that sums up everything that we were going to discuss in this episode, which has run quite long, considering we had all those awards to get through. And I imagine the next few weeks will be us dreading what's coming up with the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Not much more.
I think this Rumble is going to be really interesting, because they have had 5 Rumbles now, 5 Rumbles in a row where the winner has been bad. Where, you get at least a significant portion of the crowd booing. So, I have to imagine they're going to do something interesting this year.
We did say that the last couple of times, though.
Yeah.
So, I think...
Let's just see where this goes, guys.
Yeah, I think it's time now that Mr. Poitz has changed out of his dress clothes and into something a little more casual. He's ready to lean back in the social media lounge. Yep, there he is, taking off that jacket right now. Ready to delve us into the universe of social media.
All right. Well, as ever and always, I would like to do a quick shout out to our friends over at the Game Buoy video game podcast, your stop to left of center gaming news and views. We also invite you to give us your thoughts, suggest talking points of your own, and tell us what you thought of the week in wrestling by posting comments on this video, by tweeting at us at Tables Ladders, or by replying to our posts on Facebook. We also ask that you follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook and share our posts, rate us and subscribe on iTunes, and shop on Amazon.com using our affiliate link. All of these links can be found on our Podbean page, tablesladderspodcast.podbean.com.
With that, all that remains to be said is Yambag, everybody.
Yambag, everybody.
Yambag. Everybody.